Okay. Oops. How many of you had a chance to listen to me yesterday, one of the two talks? Okay, very good. So what I'm going to do is, in fact, I'm going to tell you brief 3 stories. But it's really a one story. Now, number of you had a chance to hear about Hanuman, correct? Maybe multiple times. So I am not going to talk about Hanuman because maybe you had enough of Hanuman. But when Vanaras started looking for Sita, everyone knows that, right? What they did, Sugriva, the king, the Vanara king, and you know who are Vanaras, by the way? Huh? Monkeys. Well, they are called sometimes as monkeys in Valmiki Ramayana. The Hari is the word used. Okay. Then the one who lives in the forest, one who jump from the trees. But actually, the Vanaras are nothing but human beings like us. They are us. Our ancestors were Vanaras. Okay. But they, just like in the wartime or even otherwise, if you go to military, the Air Force people wear a certain dress. The military folks wear certain type of dress. And the militias, you know, our fighting army wears a different way. That's how they used to wear. Even now, if you go to different parts of the world, a specific tribes, if you go to Polynesia, if you go to Indonesia, if you go to Africa, they, as if they have a specific uniform. Okay, so it was like a uniform. So Vanaras are human beings, okay, Vanara, Vishesha Nara, okay, or the one who live in the forest. And so they divided themselves into 4 searching parties, and they went in 4 different directions. You know, the party that went in the Dakshin, south direction, they found Sita ultimately, and then you know rest of Ramayana. The other 3 directions, actually we don't know what happened. What Ramayana tells us is Sugriva gave them a time period of 1 month. He said, you will go in these directions, but you must come back within a month. And basically Ramayana says, yeah, they went for searching in east and north and west direction. And within a month's time, they were back. That's all Ramayana tells us. But before even they went in search of it, actually Sugriva gave them perfect directions. GPS. Just like before you start driving, you just do the GPS. Sugriva gave them directions. Hey, this is the way you are going in the east. These are the things you will see. These are the mountains. These are the rivers. These are the oceans. These are the specific signs you will see. He did the same thing in the east direction, north direction, and west direction. Because Sita was not found in that direction, lot of that discussion is simply not there in Valmiki Ramayana. But what Sugriva told them, 14,000 years ago, the timing of Ramayana, I'm going to briefly walk you through. And it's like a movie trailer, like a 15 minutes for each direction. So I'm going to go very fast through some of the slides. We are going to start with India as the center. When you see the map today, you may find Asia is at the end, like Japan is at the end, and America on the left side. Okay? But imagine India at the center, and then we are splitting the whole world on that side. So we are going to start going in the west direction, then we will go in the north direction, and then we will go in the east direction. We will not go in the south direction because you know a lot about it, the way Hanuman went. Okay? So this one is the west direction, let's see. All right. So this is Sugriva, by the way. And Sugriva's atlas. Everyone knows what atlas is? It's a collection of maps. Okay? So essentially, it's amazing how much Sugriva knew about the world geography 14,000 years ago. Now, why 14,000? Because if you look at all the evidence, scientific evidence from the Valmiki Ramayana, and solve it like a jigsaw puzzle, crossword puzzle, it takes you to that 14,000 years ago, 12,209 BCE. Not just approximate, exact year. But that's not the subject today. So keep this in mind. We are looking at the geography of the world 14,000 years ago. So when I do 3 directions, I will tell you some of the things, or I will ask you, what particular areas Sugriv did not talk about? Okay? Particular areas of the world. And then we will understand why Sugriv does not talk about that areas. Sugriv does not know anything about that areas and why that is so. Okay, so let's begin. So I think this is a west direction. Let's see. Go next. Sorry, I have it. Forgive me. Okay, forgive me. We are going to go first north direction, then we will go west direction and the east direction. So Sugriva tells the party that is going in the north direction, okay, starting with India as the center. So you can just imagine this. Okay, you are going to go towards the north. And what are you going to find? He says you are going to go into some areas like the areas of the Mlenchas and the Pulindas, Kuru and Madraka. In Mahabharata we hear those. Purus, Madraka, Shalya is a Madra. Okay, we hear that. And those areas, Mahabharata is only 7,500 years ago, but surprise, surprise, even when you go back 14,000 years ago, those areas were there. And those areas were even there when the Greeks were around 2,000 years ago. Ptolemy calls, Uttara Kuru and Uttara Madra. Do you know what Ptolemy calls it? The Ptolemy, the Greek guy, the Egyptian guy. He says Uttara Koro. Exactly the same area he calls it. So the area is known for a very long time. He asked them to go in the north direction. And you know what is in the north direction. Of course, you are going to find the Himalayas. Okay? The tall Himalayas. What else you are going to find? Anyone knows the area? If you straight go up to Tibet and go further north. Yeah, the plateau and then the desert of Gobi desert you are going to find. So actually Valmiki Ramayana describes the area where there is absolutely nothing grows. But some additional surprises. Now everyone knows what this is. Kailasha. Valmiki Ramayana, Sugriva talks about if you go up, you are going to find the Kailash mountain. He talks about Manas Sarovar. He says in that area, very beautiful landscape, but no trees, no shrubs, no fruits, and that's how actually you will find it today. Okay? Very interesting. Something else he says. Now, this was surprise to me when I was researching. Because I grew up in the west coast of India, like Maharashtra, where the bamboo plantations, very tropical type of thing. You will also have a bamboo plantations here. So when I saw a description that Sugriva says, as you go further north, in the India's direction, further north of India, there is this river and that has plantation of bamboos on both sides. I said, how come bamboos are grown into a very cold area? So actually I looked into the geography maps and surprise, surprise, actually the river there that flows through Kazakhstan and that area has a huge plantation of bamboos on both sides. And geographically it tells that is the border above which the bamboo will not grow. So actually you see, in fact, it gives the name of that bamboo. It says Venava. Okay, Kichaka. The name of that bamboo that is found there is Kichaka. And it describes the rivers called Shailoda River. Interestingly, that same river is described in Mahabharata also. But the Shailoda has become Shailoba by the time 7,000 years have gone by. So that happens to our places, right? So Coimbatore. But then Coimbatore, then somebody who doesn't know Tamil will say it in a different way. Mumbai becomes Bombay and then becomes Mumbai again and so on and so forth. Okay? Something very, very interesting. Then there was a description of a place, lakes and rivers filled with lotuses. Again, I had the same problem. Like how come in a very cold places, how come we are going to have lotuses? But again, surprise, surprise, that there are these regions in Kazakhstan where the lakes and rivers are filled with lotuses to the extent they celebrate lotus festival in our times. And I will encourage you after this, if you like this, how many of you like geography as a subject, Bhugol or geography? You will find it very fascinating. Okay, Valmiki Ramayana is available online. You can go valmikiramayana.net. Then you have to go to Kishkinda Kand and there Sarga 40, 41, 42, 43. These are the 4 directions. The descriptions are given. And you can literally have the Google Earth with you on your computer and you can read Valmiki Ramayana on the side and try to follow these descriptions going in different directions. Okay? So there are actually lakes and rivers with these lotus flowers. We are going in the north direction, by the way. And then it talks of Mount Soma. Now this is to be understood in a different way. There is no one Mount Soma. Yesterday, if you remember, when I was talking about the Egypt, how many of you were there when I was talking about Egypt and Ramayana? I talked about Mount Soma in Africa. When the British guy, not British, European guy was searching for the origin of river Nile. There also Mount Soma. Actually, that is very common. If you take Mount Mahendra, you know there is a Mount Mahendra in Tamil Nadu? No? You don't know? Interesting. At the border of Kerala and Tamil Nadu, if you go down, there is a Mount Mahindra. Okay? Just go to Google afterwards, even the maps, and just say Mahindra Mountain. It's going to take you right there, just north of Kanyakumari. But there is also Mount Mahindra in Odisha. There is Mount Mahindra in Punjab. Because with the same names, there can be many mountains. So this is a Soma mountain. It's referring to a mountain in the north. But do you see something in the background? What is it? Aurora Borealis. Okay? The northern lights. And Sugriva actually talks about it. In fact, let me see if I can quote a shlok from Valmiki Ramayana. This is 4th Kanda, which is Kishkinda Kanda, chapter 43, because it's going in the north direction. And the shlok number is 55, okay, at valmikiramana.net. It says, Satu Desho Visuryopi Tasya Bhasya Prakashate. That land where there are times when there is no sun at all. You know, there are places on the earth where for some time there is absolutely no sun. Where are they? At the top, right? The northern points, the polar points, polar regions on the top and in Antarctica. He says even when there is no sun, actually the place is lighted. Okay? And that's what says, Surya Lakshami Vijayas Tatpanna Iva Vivastata. It feels like as if there is a sun. It's lighted. And that he's referring to those Aurora Borealis, that you see Aurora Borealis, Aurora Northern Lights in the north, and the other ones are called what? Anyone knows the name? This Aurora Australis. Australis meaning south. Okay, they are not as bright as the north, and they happen due to the magnetic pole. Now we know the reason. Sugriva may not know the reason, or maybe he knows. It's just not written in Valmiki Ramayana. But he is describing a phenomenon, and we will come to this. Actually, Bhagwan Ram afterwards asked him, when Sugriva describes 4 direction, he says, but how do you know? Man, when did you go around roaming around? How did you know? And actually Sugriva gives the answer. I will not give the answer. I will take this as a homework for you. When you read the last chapter, you will see the next chapter 44. Ram asked the question to Sugriva, but how do you know all this world? And Sugriva gives the answer, how does he know? But so Aurora Borealis is the one, and I think that's kind of the end one. Very, very interesting. Another description in the north direction. Do you know what Sugriva says? He says, well, I am describing you all the way to the Arctic Sea. He calls the Arctic Sea Uttara Payasam Nidhi. Payasa, you know the word for the water. And Nidhi is like a big reservoir in the north direction. Arctic Sea is calling it Uttara Payasam Nidhi. He says, I am describing you the earth all the way in the north direction, but please do not go. And he says, do not go beyond this point. So if you see the Caspian Sea is here, this is like a 40 latitude. If you see the Kazakhstan, it will be somewhere here. The place called Almaty. He doesn't say Almaty. He says, do not go beyond Uttara Kuru and Uttara Madra. And you know what he says? He says, first, you will not able to go. But if at all you are successful, it's impossible to come back. Now in today's time, that is not a problem. Today actually you can go to Siberia all the way and it's pretty fine, especially in summer. So why does he say that? This is the first answer. Today the situation is different, but what I am showing you, look at where Norway is. The Norway, Sweden, Germany, Denmark, all those parts are actually under a very thick sheet of ice, 2 to 4 kilometer thick. There is an ice age going on. Okay, so there's a lot of ice there. And frankly, he says, even if the ice is not here, it's like a tundra. Nothing grows there. Okay, and you will not able to survive. So he is describing the geography that existed 14,000 years ago. Okay, this is the north direction. 4 tusk elephants. Did we talk about that yesterday? No? Okay. Ramayana refers to 4 tusk elephants. Now, some of you would have seen the elephants, and definitely elephants with 2 tusks, but not the 4 tusks. Actually, there are 3 times descriptions of 4 tusk elephants in Ramayana. In fact, when Hanuman, I don't know if anybody already talked about it, when Hanuman goes to Lanka, and he is trying to search for Sita, he sees the Ravana's palace. It's guarded with great soldiers, and also with elephants with 4 tusks. That's what Valmiki Ramayana says. Now you say, where are those 4 tusk elephants? They don't exist today. But paleontology, okay, after Darwin, people started digging and started finding fossils. And paleontology tells us actually that there was a time in the past when elephant-like creatures with 4 tusks existed. They had many different names, different species. Like one famous species is Gompothere. And that you can check that afterwards. Gompothere, Gompothere. And they became extinct 11,000 years ago. But we are talking about 14,000 years ago. Okay? So they were there. So Valmiki Ramayana is describing elephants with 4 tusks. Modern science is telling us there were elephant-like creatures with 4 tusks up to 11,000 years ago. So that also becomes a corroborative matching evidence. Everyone understands that? We just try to connect the dots like this, okay? All right, let's see. So we looked at, in the north direction, astronomy, geography, and also paleontology. And we are kind of verifying this for the north direction. Itihasa is, of course, the memory of a humankind. Do you know, by the way, why only India has Itihasa? Now, we translate Itihasa as a history in general, and that's perfectly fine. But actually, there is a difference. Because in the West, you can go to the next file, sir. Excuse me. You can open the next file, okay? So Itihasa, history, is generally a chronology. This king was ruling for these years, then another king came on board, then another queen came on board, and she ruling for some time. Do you know what is the definition of Itihasa? Itihasa, Sanskrit word means iti, ha, asa. This is how it happened. But although this is how it happened, when it is told to us, because, it's afternoon and people should listen to it in an engaging fashion. Thank you very much. You are listening in that fashion. Therefore, it is written in such a way that it's entertaining, it's engaging. So the definition goes like this. Dharmartha kama mokshanam upadesha samanvitam. It's a guidebook. It's a guidebook to tell us how to go from what we have and where we want to go. Whatever our desires are. Dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Okay? All the exciting things we want to do in life, how to do it effectively. It's a guidebook. Dharmartha kama mokshanam upadesha samanvitam purva vruttam kathayuktam itihasam prachakshate. This is called Itihasa, where they take a historical event, purva vruttam, but tell you in a katha form, in a way that it's very engaging. How many of you watch movies? Bollywood, Kollywood, Tollywood? Okay? So what happens? How many of you watch Bajirao Mastani? Some of you? Now I don't know many of the Tamil movies, so I cannot say. But what you will find is, even when a historical story is told, like Bajirao Mastani, in Bajirao Mastani there are these action songs. Now in reality, Bajirao would not have danced to the song. But when we watch the movie, we don't question it. We say, okay, I understand. But because of that, we come to know the story. Just like in the movies, a love story. Okay, there is a song where the hero and heroine are dancing in the forest and going around the trees. In real life, we don't do that. Okay, but we understand it's going on in their mind, something like this. So it becomes entertaining. That's what it is. Now I'm going to take you in the west direction. So we saw the north. Sugriva knows all the way to the Arctic Sea. Okay, now we are going to go in the west direction. I'm going to ask you some questions, by the way, guys. Okay, how far Sugriva described? Let's go in the west direction. Sugriva doesn't know North America. Sugriva doesn't know United States. Sugriva doesn't know Canada. Sugriva doesn't know United Kingdom. Sugriva does not know France. Sugriva does not know Germany. Okay, we'll see why. Let's go. So this is in the west direction. Sugriva is giving descriptions to them. Hey, this is, guys, how you are going to go in this direction. The world today looks like this. Okay, practically. There is ice in Greenland and whatnot. And of course, the Antarctica. That's not shown. But the 14,000 years ago, the world looked like this. And it doesn't show America, frankly. But this is how it was. And most of the North America, all of Canada, and most of United States was covered again with 2 to 4 kilometer thick ice sheet. Okay? So just keep that in mind. So it's going in the west direction. Now remember, they are not going the ocean route. And they did not go to America, by the way. But this is the route. Okay? So he starts saying, always from the center of India. He says, go to Avanti, which is Madhya Pradesh, Ujjain. Then go to Saurashtra. Go to what we will call Pakistan today, that area, Afghanistan. Something very interesting. You can find this today, and some of the things, not all of the things, and they are even true then. Sugriva's Atlas describes lions who are flying. Now, we don't have a flying lions today. But it does describe flying lions. Now, we have not found evidence of flying lions. But suppose tomorrow in paleontology we find it, you shouldn't be surprised. Okay? Because these transformations do happen. The flying lions which are catching fish. And artificial intelligence does a good job. I did not ask it to create it. It actually went to Valmiki Ramayana. It read the verse from Valmiki Ramayana where it describes flying lions. And it created a flying lion. So you have to be now very careful when you read things, okay? So it talks about flying lions, but something very interesting. Let's see. These different mountains, many mountains. And I'm going to tell, okay, then it talks about a chakra, let's see. Can you see the chakra? And there is a Chakrawak mountains it talks about. If you go to Iran, you can go to map and you see just above Iran the Caspian Sea. The mountain range is like this, literally the circle, okay? So possibly Chakravan mountains, that's what Ramayana calls it. And then it talks about many areas, but I want to take you to some place, Meghavanta and so on. You can map these mountains at Carpathian Mountains in Poland, Romania and whatnot. Okay, the Varaha mountain talks about. One interesting thing, I did not find the slide here. He says when you go from the Gandhara region, now what is the Gandhara region today? Very good. It's Afghanistan. He says, please do not go to the gardens of the Gandhar people and take out any dates. Literally, it refers to dates and some fruits because they are very fearsome. They like to fight. Now, do you see the Afghanistan people even fight today? He says, don't waste time with them. Don't take anything from their gardens. You will waste your time. You have only 1 month. Okay? Don't take anything. That's what Sugriva is telling 14,000 years ago. It is true today. What does that tell you about human beings? We haven't changed much. Okay? We just kind of retain what we have. And just remember this picture, because we have not found it. This can be your Indiana Jones discovery. In the west direction, what Sugriva says is somewhere in the west, there is a trident, just like a palm-like structure with 10 different branches. Okay, this is the sign indication in the west direction. We have not found it. So if you find it, it can be a great discovery. But Sugriva says something very similar in the east direction, and I am going to actually show you the evidence of it. But in the west direction, he says you will find a structure like this. We have so far not found it, so this is the imagination. And how far Sugriva describes? He describes all the way to Switzerland's Alps, the Alps mountains. He calls them Astagiri. Okay, he says that's where the sun sets as he sees it. And when people ask him, hey, what's beyond this? He says, sorry, there is nothing beyond it. I don't know anything about it. It's all darkness. Don't go there. There is nothing. Now, we know there is, of course, things like Western Europe, but why does he say there is nothing? Same answer. If you go 14,000 years ago, there is actually all the landmass of Western Europe is covered with a thick ice sheet. There is nobody living there, at least during that time. Okay, so this is our west direction. All right, can you go to the last file? And the last one, guys, okay? Only 10 more minutes and we are done. Now we are going to go in the east direction. So there is a group of Vanaras who went searching for Sita in the east direction. How many of you were there for my first talk yesterday? In the other room there? Okay, so repetition for you, but maybe I'll try to tell you some few other things. So again, Sugriva is meditating and just saying, okay, this is how the GPS works. Okay, these are the things you remember. We are going from in the east direction with India as the center. Okay, so now again, remember we are talking of the geography 14,000 years ago. So this is our India. We are starting from the center. So Sugriva says, hey, you are starting from here as if all the Vanara discussion is happening here in Karnataka. But when they start searching, they start from Vindhya. Okay, always. So, because what you don't want is somebody just starting in this direction, somebody starting in this direction, other people here, and nobody searches in this direction. And maybe the Ravana is hiding Sita there. So he says, overlap is good, but always start here. And then he describes these regions like Videha, Malava, Kashi, Kosala, Magadha. So from here, he's saying, go look for this here in this direction and keep on going. Then he talks about the areas which he calls Raupyadvip, which is the island of silver. Suvarnadvip, islands of, or the lands, not just islands, land of gold. Meaning not made out of gold, the gold can be found there. The silver can be found there. Okay? Yavadvip, the barley. So Yavadvip is what? Modern day Java in Indonesia. Now, what are you seeing here? He also describes the kind of people you are going to see. Suppose if I start from Srinagar, okay, in India, and if I am driving on a motorbike, and if I say, hey, what kind of food I am going to get? So they will say, by the time you come to Delhi, you are going to get paratha. You may get tired of eating parathas, but that's what you'll get. Then I come down to Madhya Pradesh, Indore, they say you're going to get poha. Everyone knows flattened rice, okay? Then I come to Maharashtra, they're going to say you're going to get bhakri. Then I enter Karnataka, I'm going to get dosa and idli and so on. Just like we'll talk about the food, similarly they are saying what kind of people you're going to see. I'm showing these pictures from our times where, how many of you do these kinds of things? Actually in Andhra Pradesh movies, you will see it. Some ladies, you know, their ears are like pulled all the way and the jewelry here. Actually, Sugriva describes those. Not in Andhra Pradesh, he describes them in Indonesia. But I'm showing you from Africa because he talks about people who stand on one leg or who stand on sticks. Lohamukha, whose faces are like iron, the color of iron and stuff like that. And many, so actually you can see them now. Then he talks of the island of, or the land of gold, land of silver, land of barley, that is the Jakarta or Java, that in our times. Then something very interesting. Now, this, you know who this is? Komodo dragon. This is done by AI. I did not ask for a Komodo dragon. But Valmiki Ramayana describes monsters. Red Sea monsters, Red River, Mandeha Rakshasa, grey-colored Rakshasa, who are like bats. Their descriptions are like bats. Flying bats. Bats, of course, fly. But these are very, very big. So you can see all of these. And then the mountains in the Indonesian region. There are many of them. Something very interesting. He talks about Kshirosagar, which is a milk ocean. Now, of course, we will say, how many of you have been to the ocean, to the beach? To the beach? Yeah. So if you see the waves and when they crash on each other, they create a foam and that looks like a milk. So in a generic sense, any ocean can be considered a milk ocean. But something very specific, the area where Sugriva describes it in the east direction, if you go, this is the area of Indonesia. Actually, because of specific types of bacteria, luminous bacteria, you see, and when the bacteria become very high in number, for certain time, like maybe for days, for the weeks, you see a passage of the ocean going for hundreds of miles, basically turn into a milk ocean. And these are the reports you see in the last 2,000 years, the people going on the boats and ships. And you know, if you are not aware of it, they will be extremely scared. They don't know what to make of it. They are worried if the ocean has got some poison, is it okay to drink that water and not? Well, it was safe, but there are these luminous bacteria. You can check on this, by the way. You can go and look for something like luminous bacteria causing milk-like ocean. You can find it today. You'll see many better pictures like this, okay? So very, very consistent. Then, please help me here. Sugriva talks about Vadavanara. Do you know what this is? A fire under the ocean. Okay? And what is this called? Ring of fire. You have studied Ring of Fire? Yeah. So essentially, again, this is a perfect description that matches. He talks about Vadavanara that you will encounter in the east direction in the ocean, like fire under the ocean, and actually it exists even today. See, this is the area, if you see, like Japan will be like here. This is the area why Japan has lots of earthquakes. Because it's a very active area. You know, volcanically speaking, it's very active area. You see lots of earthquakes. Now this is where I will explain, and almost I'm done. Remember what I told you in the west direction. Sugriva says there is going to be a palm-like structure with 10 branches that we have not found. When Sugriva is describing the east direction, he says after you cross the ocean, you are going to find a trident-like structure okay, engraved on the front of the mountain. It is an insignia to Mount Ananta. Like when we look at our Indian flag, it is an insignia for the country called India. Okay, so this is a representation, a symbol for Mount Ananta. Now it says, Valmiki Ramayana describes, Sugriva describes exactly how this structure will look. It also does that for the 10 branch structure, but we have not found it, so we don't know exactly how it looked. But here it describes it. Sugriva also describes who created this structure, when it was created, why it was created. Now let me take you back for a minute. Now do you know when Europeans became familiar with South America? Anyone? How long ago Europeans became familiar with South America? Approximately? Yeah, Christopher Columbus, which is what? 500, 600 years ago. Everyone with me? Before that, Europeans did not know anything existed there. In fact, Columbus started from Europe and he went in the west direction, like Sugriva's direction. Where was he going? Anyone? He wanted to go to India. He wanted to discover us, find out how Indians look like. Okay, he just went in the wrong direction and he found a land. So as soon as he found a land and some people, what did he call them? Indians. So therefore we have Indians all over the world. So okay, so when Europeans found thank you. When Europeans found any other people who did not look like them, they called them Indians. Okay, so when they went to South America, there are also these different tribes. They call them Indians and they gave a different name. They will say, what are you called? And so there are Ayamara Indians, Quechua Indians, in North America, many Indians. So now I will take you back to 500 years. Once Columbus found America, many other people from Europe started going there. Spanish people went to South America. And when they came to this area, Peru, in South America, they found this structure and they asked the locals. I said, did you create this? They said, no. Like a Bart Simpson, they said, I didn't do it. We didn't do it. So who created? Your grandparents? They said, no. Our grandparents also told us this structure was always there. And Spanish people asked, what is the purpose of this? They said, we don't know. We did not build it. We don't know. Now, what if I tell you the Valmiki Ramayana that was composed, that all events happened thousands of miles away from South America, actually describe this structure. Sugriva is describing as the end of the east direction or a beginning of a east direction. And now just keep this structure in your mind here. You can look at it. And now I'm going to say how Sugriva describes this. He says, Trishira Kanchana Ketu Talas Tasya Mahatmanaha Sthapita Parvatasyagre Virajati Savedikaha. Trishira Kanchanas Ketus. Three Shira, three heads. Do you see the three heads? Kanchana, golden. Ketu means like a pole. Okay? It's like a pole with the three heads, golden in color. Trishira Kanchanas Ketu. Talas Tasya Mahatmana. It's a very big structure. We know it is about 600 to 800 feet tall, depending on how you measure it. Sthapita Parvatasya. If you come from the ocean, Pacific Ocean towards Chile, when you are even far away, like 15, 20 kilometers away, you are going to see it from the ocean. I have been to this place 3 times. I mean, okay. So in the ocean, this is the ocean here, Bay of Paracas, you can actually see it. Okay, Sthapita Parvatasya. It is established, engraved at the front of the mountain. Virajati Savedikaha. Like, you know, when we create a Veda Bhumi, we create a rectangular structure for doing the arpan and we say Swaha, Swaha, Swaha. The structure is there at the bottom. The next shlok, Sugriva explains why this is created, who created it and where it is exactly located. So he says, Purvasyadishi Nirmanam, Purvasyadishi Nirmanam, Krutam Tat Tridasheshware, Tatah Parahemamaya Sriman Udaya Parvata. He says this structure is created as the marker of the east direction. How many of you understand or know about the International Day Line? it runs through Pacific, right? When the boats cross that line, depending on which direction they are crossing, they change their calendars. They change the timing. They lose one day or they gain one day, depending on which way they cross, okay? So just like we have an international day line, think of 14,000 years ago, this is the international day line, okay? He says, this is the where east begins. Purvasya adishi nirmanam. Earth is round. So somewhere we have to call it east. This is the east direction. Purvasya adishi nirmanam krutam tat tridasheshware. This was created by Indra, Tridasheshwara. Indra is considered the deity, the Swami of a east direction. He created it. And where is this created? What is the location? He says, Tatah para hemamaya. If you go beyond this, Tatah para hemamaya sriman udaya parvata. If you go beyond this, you will find ice-covered mountain known as Udaya Parvata, where the first sun rises of the day. Today we say when the sun rises in Japan, the day begins. Although sun is rising everywhere, you know, but we make an artificial line. So this is where it is. And what is that mountain, guys, in South America? Andes. So that Udaya Parvata or Ananta mountain, he is referring to the Andes mountain. And everyone, if I say Ananta, what comes to your mind? Huh? Endless, what else? A snake? A snake with multiple hoods. Now just look at this South America. This is the South America seen from the west. You can see this Andes mountain chain literally like a snake. And just imagine in a metaphorical way, each of the peak is like the hood of a snake. Thousands of hoods. Okay, Ananta or Shesha is imagined with thousands of hoods. Now this is not only in Ramayana. If you read Bhagavad Puran, how many of you read Bhagavad Puran? Now time to read it. If you go to Bhagavad Puran, there is a chapter on the glories of Ananta mountain or Ananta Dev. And do you know what it says? Bhagavad Puran says, Ananta is a mountain chain in Patal. Go and check that, please. And now I'm not going to tell you the long story, but if you know the story of a Mahabali and Vaman, okay? So when Mahabali was put into a prison, house arrest, afterwards when he was released, he did not come back to India. Actually, that's what Bhagavad Puran says. He went further to Patal and he established many colonies, 7 colonies, Atala, Vitala, Rasatala, Talatala, Patal, and so on. So that is the South America is basically Bali's Patal, okay? And 4-tusked elephant, that's fine. So essentially what Sugriva is describing is all the way in South America, the east direction, to Europe, the west direction, all the way Arctic Sea, and all the way to Antarctica. I did not cover south direction. But in south direction, Sugriva describes all the way to Antarctica. I think I am done. Let's see. So we looked at geography, we looked at astronomy, paleontology, anthropology, and that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. We've almost come to the end of the details, and we will have a valedictory session where we will have Swai Swarupa ma'am talking about giving her closing remarks about the 2-day session we had.